Giles, this is just between you and me, okay? I'm a werewolf. Look at you. TW, you're gonna be glad that you came to me with this. Yes, because with the right angles, man, we're gonna turn this into something monstrous.
A high school nobody suddenly becomes a popular athlete when he transforms into a werewolf. Special guest Lauren Miller joins us as we chat about the stupidest name ever, my lame high school years, and James says something that could get us sued. Then we find out if 1985's Teen Wolf stands the test of time.
Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? James says gladiator with a glut. Alan says as a father, blah blah. It's the test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Test of Time. My name is Alan Noah.
And I'm James Brief. Welcome back to the Test of Time. Hi, Alan. How are you?
I am well. How are you? Actually, I don't care. We have a special guest here. We have to welcome our very special guest, Lauren Miller. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on the show.
I'm very excited.
Hey, Alan, you don't care at all how I'm doing?
No, you know what? Honestly, I said I don't care because I know that you're okay. Because we were talking a little bit before.
That's true.
So, Lauren, we were hanging out last summer, I think, right?
Yes.
And somehow the topic of the podcast came up, and we got into like a very long conversation about what movie you should do.
Yeah.
And I feel like Teen Wolf was sort of like the first answer, and then like we kind of talked about it, like some other movies.
It was, because I love a lot of movies, so I threw a lot of ideas out there. But Teen Wolf was my first choice.
And I think it's a solid choice. Why is it your first choice?
So when Teen Wolf came out, I think it was 1985.
Mm-hmm.
I was 5 years old, and I was obsessed with Teen Wolf. I loved it. I watched it every single day, and I broke my VHS cassette because I played it so much. And I just always loved it. I loved Michael J. Fox. I always loved Teen Wolf. And it's just a different movie that I thought someone wouldn't pick and would get me on your show.
Well, it was a good choice. It worked. You are here. You've seen this movie countless times. James, you've seen it before, I assume?
Yeah, I'd seen this film. It's definitely been a while, but I'd seen this film.
It's been a while for me too, actually.
What about you, Al?
Same. I'd seen it probably a million times in the 80s, and I couldn't really tell you the last time I watched it before watching it the other night. There was a lot of stuff that I didn't remember, but we'll get into that.
We will get into that, but first, I love this story. How do you two know each other?
So Lauren and I know each other from the NBC Page program.
Yes. We both started as pages together.
No, a little bit off, right?
You started like a month and a half before me.
Right. Which is like in the
page life,
world,
it's forever.
Yeah, like you are the new guy for literally 1 week. Yeah. Or at least it used to be. Like new people started every Friday. So by the time there was like a new batch of pages, even if you'd been there for 2 weeks, you were old news.
Right.
If you've ever seen the sitcom 30 Rock, the character Kenneth, he's an intern at NBC.
A page.
He's a page.
Right.
A page is not an intern.
Okay,
not even close, James.
Okay.
You're showing your ignorance.
Please explain to me.
They do not wear the uniform that we wore.
Right.
Oh, wait, there are interns.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Interns don't get paid.
Right.
They don't wear the uniform. And I always kind of thought, you tell me if you disagree, I always kind of thought they got more respect than we did.
Probably. The Page program is a year-long program, and you just work in different divisions of NBC.
And which one is more likely to make you actually work at NBC, though?
Well, I still work at NBC, so I'm going to go with Page, but could be either.
I think either one is good, but I think the Page program is prestigious,
It
right?
is.
I'm just finding this like these 23-year-olds. You're just an unpaid intern, and I'm a minimum wage paid NBC
We did
page.
very cool things as pages.
You have some fantastic celebrity pictures for Mr. T. That was from like what was it? NBC's like 50th, 60th
It was the
anniversary.
NBC 75th anniversary party.
That must have been amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's a picture of you with Screech, I think, Dustin
Yes,
Diamond.
Screech was there.
Yes, that was a good story with you, Lauren, because do you remember what you said to him?
To Screech?
Yeah.
No.
I feel like we were gonna go up to him and like ask him for a picture, and I was probably like being nervous because like, oh, we're not supposed to, it's against the rules. And you were like, whatever. Hey, Screech.
You said Screech?
Did I call him Screech?
You called him Screech, and he turned around. I feel like right after you said it, you were like, oh wait, I'm sorry, Dustin Diamond. And he's like, it's fine. Everyone calls me Screech. You want a picture? And you're like, yes, please. And then we got a picture with Screech. And he
Yeah.
was cool about it.
Oh, please. He liked being called Screech.
He really
is
did
Screech.
mind. Exactly.
But we met Mr. T that night, too. We took a picture with Mr. T. The whole cast of Will and Grace was there. Friends, I remember. Seinfeld. I remember David Hasselhoff.
Yes,
was
that's
there.
right. That was a really big deal.
But getting to Teen Wolf. So Michael J. Fox was known primarily for the Back to the Future franchise, but I would say for me, this in the 80s at least, to me, this was his second most recognizable film.
Film, yeah, I always think of him in Family
Family
Ties.
Ties.
Yeah, I'd say you'd probably rank them as Back to the Future easily number 1. And you're right, Family Ties number 2, but Teen Wolf is number 3.
Yeah.
I think it's
Well,
before
Back to the Future and
others.
Teen Wolf came out the same year.
Yes.
That's right. And actually, this film came out August 23rd, 1985, but it was supposed to come out in spring 1985. And they very wisely knew they had a huge hit on their hands with Back to the Future, and they knew they had a hit summer of 85, so they postponed this, and they capitalized on, this would be like the sophomore success.
Right,
riding
because
on its
everyone would
coattails.
go because of Back to the Future.
Right. And, in this film, he plays a very young whippersnapper, a high school student named Scott Howard. He isn't really popular or athletic, but that all changes when he discovers that he's, in fact, a werewolf. And this is a trait that actually runs in his entire family. Now, Scott, he quickly capitalizes on his newfound abilities, and he becomes the hero of the school's basketball team, and he wins over his longtime crush, Pamela, and things are going really well until Scott begins to worry that he's being celebrated more as a novelty rather than for who he is inside. In the end, he finds out that all he really wants to be is himself.
Aw,
Aww.
that's sweet.
Yeah, there's a lesson in this film.
I think you just said it, yeah.
As I said, this film came out in August 23rd, 1985. And this film did pretty well. I don't have the budget, but it opened at number 4 with $6 million. And number 1 that weekend, the 1985 release of E.T.
What was different about it?
Just that E.T. came out in 1981. Like, there have been several, or 80 or 81.
It was re-released in the theater?
It was released several times. They used to do these re-releases all the time. And number 2 was another one that we reviewed, Weird Science.
Okay, yeah.
Then, of course, because it's 1985, what else has to be in the top 5?
Back to the Future?
Yes, Back to the Future. It's 8th week. Teen Wolf opened at number 4. And then another film at number 5 that we reviewed. It's the debut film of a wildly successful director. Johnny Depp is his favorite actor to work with.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
That is correct.
Okay.
Oh, that was the same year?
Wow.
Yeah, that was the same year.
wow. Well, Chubby from Teen Wolf is in Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Right. He's Francis.
Yeah.
This film was, it was number 23 at the box office that year. So this was a success. This made $33 million. There's no way this film cost more than low teens at most.
I think it was less.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if it was in the
I
single
read they had a
digits.
really low budget.
And Michael J. Fox, you've heard the stories that he filmed like Family Ties in the daytime, and he'd film these movies like at night around the schedule. He like didn't sleep for like all of 1984 and 85.
Right. Yeah, and he plays a high school kid in this movie,
Right.
but he's in his early 20s at this point. He's like
Right.
23,
Yeah, I think it's like
24.
23, 24.
He's 23, and Styles, he's played by Jerry Levine. Age, you want to guess?
24. 25?
27.
27.
Nice.
Chubby, so he's played by a guy named Mark Holton. You know how old he is?
I don't know.
26.
Okay.
And then Mick, the bad guy, he's played by Mark Arnold. Not even close to looking like a high school person. He's 27.
They do sort of reference it at one point that like he got like held back or something.
Yeah.
Or he
they
was
say
like,
he's like 20, I think, in the movie.
at first I was like, well, is he like a college kid who's dating a high school girl? But he goes to a different high school.
Yeah, he's on the opposing basketball team.
Right.
Right, and that's where we open up the movie. It's the Beavers, and it's your typical sports film. They suck in the beginning.
Right. I love the coach. I completely forgot about this character. I thought he was hilarious. Like when Scott goes in after the game and like asks for advice and the coach is like, hey, anytime you want to come in here, mi casa is su casa.
And he's eating a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Right. He's like using like an electric shaver. And as soon as Scott like asks him for help, he's immediately like, oh, I don't know. I'm kind of busy here. Like while he's eating like the KFC. I noticed on the door, like outside, it says no students allowed while he's talking about like his open door policy. Like,
it's funny.
Well,
in the opening, in the first game, how the movie opens, he actually asked to forfeit the game.
Right.
In the middle, because they are losing by so much. He's like, can we just forfeit?
Yeah. He does that in Friday Night Lights, right? And isn't that like a scandal that rocks like half a season or something?
Yeah.
Can't do that. Bad sportsmanship.
And, you know, I'll give this movie credit. They don't really try to hide anything. When the movie is called Teen Wolf, you know what you're getting. And there's a couple clues that this teenager, Scott, that he is, in fact, a wolf. He's growling really loud, and there's these really long hairs that are growing on his chest, his otherwise completely shaved chest, I might add. There's a part where his family owns a hardware store, and some kid is blowing a dog whistle, and he hears a really loud frequency, but his father doesn't. I'll point
that part's
out.
a little weird.
Or is it that he is just used to it and can handle it because he's been a wolf for so many years?
That's a good point.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think
and this is all new to Scott, so he doesn't know how to deal with the dog whistle.
I did like the part where the dad says, we're just a small-time hardware store. We can't compete with the big guys like Sears and Roebuck. From a test of time perspective, that kind of made me laugh. Although I guess it is still true that little hardware stores can compete with the big guys, but now it's Home Depot and Lowe's.
Right, it's not Sears.
Right.
Michael J. Fox's character, Scott Howard, completely generic name, but the side characters in this film have fantastic names. So there's the real cool best friend, Styles. That's not necessarily his nickname. That seems to actually be his name.
His name is Styles.
Yeah.
It's spelled Stiles. That's his name.
I know, but he's a really, like, cool dude, as we'll talk about. And then there's another character, one of the female love interests, and I say one of them.
Are you talking about Boof?
Exactly. So the only time I've ever heard BOOF in the last few years, I guess, was like the Judge Kavanaugh hearings when he said, I guess it means farting.
Right. I don't think they ever say why they call her Boof.
Her name is Boof.
It can't be her name.
That's her name is Boof.
Like Styles.
Yes.
Boof.
Her name is Boof.
And the dumb bad guy, his name is Mick.
Hold on. You can't compare that. Mick is an actual name. Mick Jagger. Styles, I can't think of another person other than Harry Styles, and that's a last name, but I could believe that someone would have the name Styles. Nobody is named Boof. Nobody.
Nobody's named
No.
Boof. No, it is weird.
At some point, I just wanted a teacher to be like, Lisa Boofalesco or something.
Right,
Just so
so
you
it
would
would be
be
like a nickname.
Right, and then you would get it. But the fact that that never happens, I mean, she's credited as Boof.
But that's her name. Her
That
name
can't
is
be
just
her
Boof.
name. No, I don't accept it. I don't accept that. It has to be a nickname of something, and I think they just forgot to put that line in, or they cut it out for some reason.
So by IMDb it says, Lisa, quote, Boof Marconi was based on one of the writer's high school girlfriends, and that was really her name.
Wait, so is her name Lisa?
I guess this character's full name is Lisa Boof Marconi.
I don't think they ever say Marconi.
I don't
No.
think so either.
Definitely
Or
not.
Lisa. I think
Okay.
it got cut out.
Definitely. Because how do you get boof from Lisa Marconi anyway?
Exactly.
It was based on a real person.
And that actress hasn't done anything else, right?
No, I don't think she really did anything else. I think she was like a guest star maybe in some shows, but I don't think she did anything.
Poor boof. She like clearly likes Scott, and Scott's a little bit aloof and is like, yeah, but she's just my friend. She's boof. They go and get beer, and it's one of those moments where it's a hint, I guess, more than just the fact that, like you said, the title is Teen Wolf. He's trying to buy beer, and he says, give me the keg.
And his eyes turn red.
Right. And that scares the old man at the liquor store.
Do you ever try to buy beer with a fake ID? It's enough years. The statute of limitations is over, Al.
Yes, of course.
Were you successful?
On some occasions.
I was.
It's easier for girls, though, right? Probably.
Depends. Is it a girl at the register or a man?
That's true.
Fair point. Fair point.
I did not get away with it because I tried using my brother's fake ID. My brother is 5 years older than me. So when I was like 18, my brother was like 23, but I was using the thing that he said was fake. So it had said the equivalent of I'm 25.
Why didn't you just use his old license?
I was not yet a college graduate. I was not a smart man.
Oh, seems like a missed opportunity there.
Yeah. I do want to talk about this journey to the party. The song is Surfin' USA.
Mm-hmm.
And by who, Al?
The Beach Boys, of course.
That one I did know.
Okay, good.
So they're on the way to the party. Styles has his car, and then Scott's driving, and then Styles says, surf's up, or whatever he says. I don't remember exactly. Something like that.
Styles has like a Scooby van, like a Scooby mystery
No,
van.
the van is the hardware store van. His father's hardware store. So he's driving that van. And then Styles puts on this Hawaiian shirt and these like Hawaiian sunglasses, takes off his shoes, jumps on the top of the car, and he dances while the car's moving.
Is it safer to take your shoes off? Is that like for safety?
I think it's about being like on the beach.
Yeah, Lauren, that's exactly what it is. And it's not like they're in a parking lot and going at 10 miles per hour.
No, they're driving like on a busy street.
They're going down the main street, 30 to 40 miles per hour. And I will say two things. One, this looks like the most dangerous thing in the world. But let's just say in a universe where it's safe, this looks so fun.
I think it's a really fun scene.
I will say that Styles looks so cool with a capital C. It's very like they would not want this in like a kid's film anymore because you would definitely see.
Because you would want to do it.
You would want to do it and film it, and then so many kids would film their,
And
I
think it also just shows like how fun Styles is and how he's willing to do anything.
Right.
And actually, at the end of that scene, Scott even says, "You'll never catch me up there." And then fast forward, when he becomes the wolf, he actually jumps on the van.
Absolutely.
And he does the whole surf scene.
And he's doing headstands. And these are real stunts. And a closed street, of course. But I thought it was really cool, the stunt work.
I mean, I think that you're doing a disservice to any young people we have who are listening to the podcast who are now going to want to try it because maybe they look cool in the movie. But the way you're gushing about it, James, this is on you. If any of our listeners try this and get injured, you got a lawsuit on your hands. For the record, I do not condone this behavior.
I know what you're saying, but for the record, if you're gonna do the surfing with the sunglasses, if you had a cigarette in your mouth, you might look a little cooler.
God. We're so getting sued.
Okay.
Well, Styles was also 27,
exactly.
so it is okay.
He's an adult doing what he wants, and no, don't smoke.
Okay, good.
You have to remember, back in high school, I don't know about you, but there was very often no beer at the gatherings. And, you couldn't get beer. It was hard to get it. So if you did bring the beer, you were the hero. And Styles, who's already a cool guy, and he's trying to carry the keg, which is really heavy, and brings it in. Everyone's like, all right, Styles. Then he comes to the back, and what does he see?
Yeah, there's a ton of kegs.
Exactly. It's hysterical because there's only two kinds of parties when you're a teenager. There was no beer or there was so much beer. I just thought that was a funny gag because that definitely happened.
Yeah. And at the party, there's a 2-minute in the closet game kind of thing.
They have a bunch of different games. There's the The guy and the girl that's on the floor and they're covered in whipped cream and they're naked and like their hands are tied behind their back.
Right. I never went to high school parties with any of this stuff. But like I'd heard of like the game in the closet. Like what the hell is that? Where they're wrestling on the floor, handcuffed.
I mean, this stuff happened.
Yeah.
You guys went to parties where this happened?
I mean, yeah.
I certainly wasn't cool enough to be like involved with any of these things, but this wasn't totally outrageous.
Yeah,
It
I
was
didn't really
like-
think that was weird at all.
didn't-
And like they dumped the Jell-O in the girl's shirt and Chubby had to eat it.
Wow, I didn't think I was that cool in high school, but wow, Al, you were like a level below me, huh, in high school.
Maybe.
I don't think it's maybe, Al.
I never did any of that stuff at any party ever.
Or saw it. You were never at these parties.
No, definitely not. I was not invited.
I actually threw these parties.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
That doesn't surprise me.
Staten Island.
Yeah, that's how we did it, you know. We didn't have the whipped cream.
Well, fine. Thanks for making me feel bad about my lame high school years. But the moment where he makes out with Boof,
Yeah.
I almost felt like a little like sad because it was like presumably their first kiss and it wasn't like the way she probably would have wanted it to happen. And then he kind of like turns into a werewolf and like Freddy Krueger's her backup pretty bad.
Well, I think that's like the whole thing. He was trying to figure out how to handle his emotions, and that's when it was first happening. So his fingernails came out and he like rips the whole back of her shirt.
Yeah. And she smacks him.
Yeah. She didn't care. She was fine.
Yeah, she was all right. I mean,
She was okay with it.
Yeah, she slapped him and was like, okay, you learned your lesson.
Yeah, then they got over it.
Yeah. But then he goes home and transforms into the wolf.
Because there's a full moon.
Right. And before he goes to the party, his dad's like, I think we should talk, son. But then Styles comes in and they get interrupted. Did you catch what he says right after he sees himself in the mirror?
Jeez Louise?
Yeah, he says,
He says, Jeez Louise.
That's such like a Michael J. Fox thing to say. Like, he turns into a wolf like, Jeez Louise.
That is the funny part.
Yeah. I did appreciate the part where it's like, Dad, you can't come in. You don't know what you're going to be walking into. And then the dad is also a werewolf. Because I felt like that could have been a thing they could have like dragged out over the course of the movie. Like, how's his dad going to find out? But I like that they kind of resolved that in 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So, Lauren, what did you think of the special effects of that scene, the transformation?
I like the way that when they did it, like his eyes pop out of his head and they kind of focus on one feature of his at a time that's transforming. So you don't really know what's going on at that point. Well, I guess you do because it's called Teen Wolf, but the effects would be totally different if it was today.
Sure.
You know, they also make him a very horror movie type werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has a lot of hair.
And it's all practical effects. So they're lucky in that had this been 1991, they would have done some really bad CGI or something.
I kind of like that it's natural effects.
Oh, I'm a big fan of practical effects. And I thought it was pretty good. I think the costume is a little silly once he's fully transformed. But I think the transformation was very well done.
The transformation's good.
Yeah, it kind of made me think of Martin Short in Inner Space.
When his eyes pop out.
Yeah, I think because it's like the thing that's happening while he's looking in the mirror. And in that movie, it looks just bad. Whereas in this movie, yeah, I think because of the way it's shot and edited together, it just looks fine.
Yeah.
So when Scott is talking to his dad about, you know, being a wolf, I like that the dad's very calm and everything. He's like, you're going to have a lot of power. And with great power comes an even greater responsibility, which is the line from Spider-Man. I was reading in my IMDb trivia today that the guy who wrote this movie was a comic book writer and he wrote some Spider-Man comics. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. I assume that's not a coincidence. I thought that was interesting. And then when he tells Styles about the whole I'm a werewolf thing, Styles' reaction is like, hey, I've got something to tell you. And he's like, you're not going to tell me you're an F word, are you? Don't say that you're an F word. And of course, he uses the actual word. And then Michael J. Fox says, hey, I'm not an F word. And we've talked about this in the podcast before. It's just like one of those things that hits your ears and just totally takes you out of the movie. But like, especially hearing Michael J. Fox say it, you know, he's like America's like little brother. He shouldn't be saying that.
The thing is, it is set up, actually, leading to that, because a male best friend at 16, 17 years old telling his best friend, hey, best buddy, there's something really secretive about me, and there's something inside me I need to tell you about. It's setting up that he's going to tell you I'm gay. He just used the 1985 word, and it's unfortunate, because otherwise, it's a good scene.
It is. But also in the scene at the party when they're doing the 2 minutes in heaven, that, you know, when they're kissing in the closet, when Styles first opens the closet and they come out, he said, how's it feel to come out of the closet, Scott? So I think it was just like the humor that they had between two guys at that time.
And I still think people would make that joke today. You know, not the same thing as the F word. But there's another basketball game. The Beavers are losing as usual, and there's a loose ball, and everyone dives for the ball, and Scott's on the bottom of this pile, and you just hear a growl coming, and it's getting louder and louder and louder, and then suddenly everyone, flies out of it because, there's Scotty, he's a wolf.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta figure, the guys at the bottom of the pile would have noticed, all the hair, right?
Right, you're on top of some guys, and we've seen Michael J. Fox is completely shaved.
I don't think he's shaved, I think he's just hairless.
Possibly, okay, but we saw one really long hair on an otherwise hairless chest at one point in the locker room. And yeah, you're right, suddenly he has a fur coat on his arms.
Well, also he gets huge because he turns into the wolf, and he's much broader, and the uniform's still the same. The uniform still fits him. And he has, these little shorts on with these hairy legs.
Now, the shorts I'll give you, because basketball shorts would expand, but the shirt should have ripped.
The shirt should have ripped.
Yeah.
Or the sweatband maybe could have moved.
Yeah. True fact about wolves, they're very strong. They have heightened smell, and they're fantastic at basketball.
Right. I mean,
obviously.
Everyone knows that. Elephants have good memory. Wolves are really good at basketball. These are just things that everyone knows.
And Air Bud is just the evolution of his wolf ancestors who are fantastic at basketball.
Right. It is a little bit bizarre at how quickly Scott adapts to being a wolf. The scene before this, he's hoping he doesn't transform, and the vice principal's there, and he's able to keep it together, but it takes all of his strength and concentration. But then 2 scenes later, he's oh, I got this. I can go back and forth whenever I want to. And he's mastered it, and he knows how to hit every shot in basketball. It's he got really good at this really
Well, I think
fast.
the whole point is that he adapts to how people perceive the wolf and how popular he becomes and how much people like it. Because I think that's all he really wants, is to be liked at that point.
There is an element to that, and I guess he could have always been the wolf. He didn't need the wolf. He learns that part. However, I wish it was a little bit more real than that, because he didn't have a natural ability in basketball, or it wasn't the coach never picked on him, then he picks on the wolf, but it turns out Scott was always good. No, it looks like he sucked in the beginning. We'll talk about it later. The turnaround of the basketball team, I don't really understand. But you're right, Al. There is a big turnaround. I mean, he's the star of the basketball team, and things are going really well for him, but not really in every aspect, because the basketball team is winning, but he's kind of a showboat, and the team's not really like him.
And the team doesn't really like him, and they start resenting him.
Right.
There's one shot where he steals the ball from one of his own players, and that's sort of the turning point, because if he keeps stealing it from the other team, all right, he's the only one who's doing it, but when he's goes against his own team, that's sort of when
that's not good.
Yeah, that's when a chubby kind of turns on him.
Right. There's a part where he gets the lead in the musical, and he's going to be right next to Pamela. And then, Pamela, she's really into the wolf, and he's only cast because he's the wolf.
Right. Well, Pamela gets into the wolf really quick. After the first game that he becomes the wolf and they win, and they go out for that pizza, they have that pizza scene, and he puts the beer can in his mouth and he opens it with his teeth.
But why is she so into the wolf? Because it's not just because he's popular. It seems like she's attracted to a really super hairy guy who acts like an animal. And as a super hairy guy who acts like an animal, I can tell you, not very realistic.
No, you're overthinking it. You had it. You had it. She's
No.
just into the popular
She just-
guy.
yeah.
Because at
Really?
the end of
Yeah.
the film, when he's just Scott, she doesn't want him until he's the winner at the
Right.
end. And then she wants him. She just wants him because he's popular.
Right.
Wolf,
and different and cool,
different-
and
yeah,
everyone
exactly.
loves him, and she wants to be with that person, which is why she's with Mick.
They kind of get a little bit together and...
Well, they
because-
have a scene while they're rehearsing for the play.
I mean, they have more than that. I mean,
Yeah.
they have sex.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
They
Yeah,
do
they
have
have
sex when he's the wolf.
And she has a boyfriend.
And she has a boyfriend
She
that
does.
she's openly cheating on, but also she's not like being secretive.
No, they go on a date. They
Yeah.
go bowling, and Mick's there.
And Mick's like, "That's my girl," and
Yeah.
like, why isn't he like? Why are you with him? You know?
He does. He says, underneath all that hair, you're still a dork, Scott.
No, I'm saying, why
That's
doesn't
like the
Mick
main-
talk to Pamela and be like, "Why are you out with this guy? Like, you're my girl." Like,
Mick's
I would-
with another girl, too, though.
That's a good
At
point
the
too.
bowling
So
alley.
I guess that it's a pretty open relationship.
Yeah.
So I guess the climax of the wolf's popularity is at the school dance.
Right. Boof wants to go with Scott.
Yes.
But just Scott.
Right. She doesn't want to go with the wolf. She only wants to go with Scott as Scott.
Boof. I can't take it seriously.
No, you can't because her name is Boof. But Scott refuses her and he will only go to the dance as the wolf. And yet, Boof is still like, okay, I'll still dance
Well, he
with
says people want the wolf. That's what people expect from me. I have to do it. That's that pressure he feels on having to be the wolf.
Have you ever seen, Lauren, Al, in either of your lives, a dance where everyone just suddenly like opens up the dance floor to somebody to dance? I've never seen Saturday Night Fever, but you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Where-
they make way for him as soon as
Right.
he walks in.
Right.
And then they
he's-
all start chanting, wolf, wolf,
Wolf,
wolf,
wolf,
wolf.
No, I've never seen that at a dance, but I've also never been to a dance with a werewolf. So that could be totally normal.
It seems to happen in movies
Yeah.
a lot. I've
Especially
never
80s
seen
movies.
this happen. Yes, especially 80s movies.
First of all, he walks in a complete white suit. So
Oh,
it
yeah.
is very Saturday Night Fever because it's that
Absolutely.
whole white suit with his wolf hair sticking out. And then they walk in and they start playing the song about a wolf.
I mean, the lyrics in that song are really bizarre, as are the lyrics in all of the songs.
Well, the music in the movie's not so great.
I think Surf City, the lyrics are okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
the only exception is the Beach Boys, but all the other songs. And I saw in the credits that like it was some team who like wrote the music and wrote the lyrics for every song in this movie.
Well, this song
So
is about a wolf.
And also like a grandma. There's like a lot
No,
of
well,
lyrics
it
that
says
are
you sure. Well, the lyric is "You sure don't look like your grandma," and I think that's like the wolf, like Little Red Riding Hood.
Oh, I totally missed that.
Yeah, and you
Oh,
sure
okay.
don't look like your grandma. I think it's like Little Red Riding Hood.
Gotcha. Okay. The dance itself is like it's Thriller, basically, right?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. It's pretty much Thriller. The whole move that he's basically doing is like claws up in the air, kind of growling. The whole crowd starts doing it really quickly.
Scott and Booth, they do make out again, but more importantly, Pamela, the beautiful blonde that Scott is working with in the theater, there is a scuffle, and Scott, he gets angry and he turns into the wolf, and then Mick is a big guy, he's 27, but he is no match for the wolf, and the wolf could kill Mick, but luckily just perfectly tears Mick's chest to reveal like a six-pack shaved chest.
It's scary for Scott because he's like afraid that he's going to kill him.
Right. He doesn't want to be that person.
He's not violent. He's a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like in the background, there's a little subplot that Styles has been like selling merch and he's wearing what is basically the Teen Wolf, the movie's logo on his t-shirt in the film.
He's got a lot of interesting t-shirts. I wrote a couple of them down. Like, they're pretty funny. In the beginning, his first shirt is "Life sucks, then you die." And then later on, his shirt says, "What are you looking at, dick nose?" Which just makes me laugh.
And he wears it to school.
Right. There's werewolves at the school. People wear shirts that say dick nose. Like, what's going on? Meanwhile, the vice principal is really out to get Scott.
Well, they have history
Right.
with his father and his mother.
They give us the backstory about the mom, but they don't really say, like, where the mom is. We assume she died,
I
I
think
guess?
she died.
It seemed like something that was missing there, right? Because, like, when Mick and Scott first fight, he's like, your mom was probably, like, chasing down cars or something. And then Scott gets so upset, he like throws the bowling ball across the bowling alley, which luckily doesn't kill anyone. Someone in the background is like, oh, my French fries. Like, I feel like if I was at a bowling alley and someone threw a bowling ball, I'd be more worried about like...
Well, you'd probably be more worried that there's a wolf in the bowling alley.
That's also very true. But then, like, when the dad is telling Scott about, like, you know, oh, the vice principal liked the mom and it didn't work out with him and we got into a fight and I was scared that I was going to kill him. And then that obviously mirrors his fight with Mick. But, like, one line would have been nice there of, like, and to honor your mom's memory or, and I miss her so much or something, you know, like.
No, I think they should have addressed the mom, but I think it's just understood that she died. Because I think, like, the whole father-son relationship's a big point in the movie.
Yes, I agree.
It's sort of like a puberty analogy. Like, son, you're going through the changes I went through as well when I was your age.
And I had the bully that you had.
Right. And the movie comes full circle. We are now at the something championship. State, county. It's the championship game.
Yeah.
And it's between the Beavers and whatever high school Mick goes to.
Yes.
And Scott shows up as Scott.
It's a big deal because the Wolf's the reason they were even at the championship in the first place. And now it's the final game.
Right. And everyone has wolf fever. And
everyone's in the
been
Team
crazy.
Wolf shirts.
Oh, yeah. Styles must be making a killing. I kept thinking, because this is 1985, it's not like you can go on Amazon or something. There must be one place in town where he bought like a bunch of stuff. And he had to buy this stuff. So when he decides, I'm not going to be the wolf anymore, Styles is out a lot of money.
Yeah.
He says that. He's like, I invested a lot in this.
And he's counting the money at the game. Like, you see him. He has, like, a wad of money.
It's literally an investment. And, you know, weird that he's, you know, like running this merch store in the school. You would think that would violate some rules.
There's no rules in the school. Come on.
I guess if you got wolves, like, having sex with students, like, on school property, like, I guess the merch isn't really that big of an issue.
I think to sell a t-shirt's okay. I think they'll be all right.
Yeah.
I alluded to this earlier, but the problem I have with this final basketball scene, this third act here, is that it was this huge wolf that can slam dunk and do flips that got them to the state championship. And he goes to them and he goes, the big inspirational speech is literally, we can take these guys. I just don't see why the contender for the best team in the county doesn't wipe the floor with the Wolfless Beavers. They're missing something.
Well, no, I think that the whole point at the end is that he gains his own confidence and wants to do the right thing and work with the whole basketball team as a team to beat them.
But then they should have shown earlier, like, he should have gone for the shot, but he didn't have the self-confidence to go for the shot.
I don't think they could have because I think they sucked before.
That's the thing. They sucked. I'm saying there should have been some inner talent that he always had, but I'm sorry they replaced this wolf with Michael J. Fox, who's like 5 foot, not
4.
closer to 6 feet.
Yeah.
You know, there should have been like the fat guy, like they never passed to him. Maybe they could have given it to him and the coach, something that he got more confidence to teach him to. The wolf helped us all learn better. It was totally missing that.
So the we could take these guys didn't do it for you.
No, it did not.
Also, the fact is that Scott shows up like after the game has started. I mean, it's not like halftime, but like he's late, whether you're the wolf or not. Like, be on time, man.
Well, I think he was debating whether he should go as Scott or the wolf. Maybe I'm totally overthinking it. But I think he walks in late because he's debating what he should do.
He should have decided the right thing a little earlier.
No, yeah, he could have been on
He's
time.
part of a team.
I think you're right. It was like a scene of him like debating it in the locker room that they just cut for time.
They just cut it.
Which is weird because the game itself, I thought went on for a really long time. It's like going back and forth with the score and like I kept waiting for it to just be like, okay, now they're down by 30, now they're down by 10, now they're tied. And I was like, come on, why is this game taking forever?
The score is like 40-11 when they start to turn around. And they show you pretty much every point until it becomes 51-50. It's 40-11, then 40-13, they're coming back, then 40-15, now it's 42-15, 42-17.
See, I didn't even realize that though.
Oh, I totally
See, because like I watch
noticed
it as like I
totally
see
did.
him jumping on the guy's back and then like shaking hands and then jumping up and down and just like really working together.
You really had to pay attention and be like, who's ahead now? Yeah, and then eventually it's 51-50.
It becomes down to a foul because Mick fouls Scott, and he's got the 2 free throws.
0 time on the timer. It's one of those tropes of like penalty shot with no time left on the clock.
I mean, I thought that was like a little anticlimactic for a sports movie, but at the same time, it's all on Scott, and they take their time with the shot, and you hear like the heart beating with the dribbling, and he makes the 1 shot, and then he makes a 2nd shot, and the crowd goes wild.
It's not like it's a common thing, but this is not ridiculously uncommon that the end of the game comes down to foul shots. It does happen. Yes, in the beginning of the film, he missed the free throw, but there's no reason why he got 2 free throws this time. I wish there was something.
Well, he is still the wolf. He's just not turned into the wolf. But he still has the wolf traits in him now that he didn't have before.
Does he?
I think so. When he's like with Styles in that scene in the garage and he's smelling, he has that sense of smell. He's not the wolf, but he still has the smell.
I think it really is about the confidence. And I do think that gets lost along the way because they don't do a good job of either spelling it out or like hinting at it at all. But I do think that it's like, he learned how to believe in himself, and that's what makes him good at basketball.
I think it's a mix. I think he has the wolf traits, and I think he learned to believe himself. And combine the 2 parts of Scott Howard pre-wolf and Scott Howard after wolf, and just become one person.
But then that kind of kills the lesson of the movie, that you can just be yourself and have wolf genes, and you can overcome anything.
But he is his self-confidence because he doesn't have to hide behind the wolf. He can embrace himself and not become the wolf.
You know what? I think you might be right in it. I just think it's missing that scene, that bridge the 2 of those.
And then Pamela kind of like goes running over, and who's Scott gonna pick? But he just goes right by her. He kind of like pats her on the back, kind of.
He does pat her on the back. He almost pats her to like jump over her.
Yeah, and goes straight to Booth, which is where he belongs. They belong together. As he's going over to her and you see that crowd shot, you can see in the background someone who is zipping up their pants. And the urban legend is that it was a guy who like had his dick out, but that's not what it is. It's a woman who just has her pants down for some reason. And then,
I read that it was an extra. They didn't have enough extras in the movie because it was such a low budget movie that extra was actually another part and then ran to the back to be there for that final scene and didn't finish pulling up the pants.
That makes sense. Because like there's no other reason that an extra or any person would be there with their pants down.
Yeah. I also read that they didn't even know that was there until people started making a big deal about it. Way after the movie was released.
And it's funny that, like, it's never been corrected or fixed.
Who's going to write a $5,000 check for that?
I mean, well, I guess that's, like, the proof that it's not an actual, like, guy flashing. Because if that was the case, then someone would have...
Yeah. No, they just have you don't see anything.
You don't see anything.
No.
Nothing.
There's no X-rated thing going on.
It's not even remotely scandalous. It seems like the movie ends on a freeze frame.
It seems like it does.
But then like it like starts going into like slow-mo after.
It's a really weird ending.
It really is. But now that we've come to the end of the movie, yes. Lauren, you are a very special guest, so we ask you first, do you think this movie stands the test of time?
I do. I think it stands the test of time. And I actually was talking to my friend whose son just watched the movie last week and loved it. And he's 8 years old. And I thought it was funny because at first I was thinking maybe they wouldn't like it because it's 80s, it's cheesy, he's a werewolf. But I think the generic theme of the movie can still stand time today. And I think there's tons of supernatural TV shows and movies. Also, like, don't forget MTV had the Teen Wolf show.
Yeah, that lasted like 5 years or something like that.
It was 2011 to 2017.
Okay, so you were a fan.
No, I looked it up before I came here.
Oh, okay, you did more research. That's impressive. It lasted that long.
Yeah.
I mean, I was sort of wondering, like, when we were talking about, like, when they were saying the F word, I was like, I wonder if in the TV show there was a gay character or they kind of hit that a little bit more about, you know, coming out as a wolf and maybe made something more of that.
Well, I think the TV show in general had to be more diverse. I mean, the movie's not diverse at all.
I think there's one black kid on like the other basketball team. Yeah. It's a very...
And his name's Lemonade.
His name is Lemonade?
I think so.
Oh, what is with the names in this movie?
He says Lemonade, my main man.
Oh, God. He does. Styles says that. Yes, you're right. Very weird. All right, James, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to go over some stuff I like about this film, some stuff I don't like about this film. Things I like. Number one, Michael J. Fox. He is the cute heartthrob, and he's charming. He's safe. He's very this is a fun guy. Like he's not a
very
bad
likable.
guy. Yes, very likable. I think most of the cast is good here. I think they're too old, but Styles is. I think he's a fun best friend. Mick is cast as kind of a non-blonde William Zabka. William Zabka being the bad guy from Karate Kid and all those back to school kind of films. I liked Boof. I thought she was good. Pamela is fine. You're right, Al. The coach is really funny.
Yeah.
That was totally unexpected.
He has a great line where he's like, it doesn't matter how you play. It's if you win or lose. And even that doesn't really matter. That's like the complete wrong thing for a coach to say.
Don't trust someone with a tattoo. Tattoo of a dagger.
Yeah.
Something like that.
What don't I like? I've mentioned this a couple times. I don't really like the transformation back to Scott. I'm not saying it wouldn't be cheesy, but I think there's an obvious, be yourself, you always had it in you kind of lesson that I think they tell you that lesson. They just don't show you the lesson. The other thing is I've always been into zombies. Vampires and werewolves never really excited me. I've definitely seen this film. This was the kind of film that I saw on a sleepover at someone else's house. But the reality is, I actually thought this film, to me, was kind of lame in the beginning. I worshipped Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future. There was nothing against him. But for me, no, this film doesn't stand up. I see your reasoning, too. I think, had I had a childhood crush on him...
I was in love with Michael J. Fox my whole life, so maybe I am a little biased.
Yeah, that can help tip the scales a little bit. But, Al, 2 questions. Does this stand the test of time? And did you have a crush on Michael J. Fox?
I didn't, but I definitely wished I was him. And I could totally see why any girl would have had a crush on him. I wanted to be Marty McFly. I wanted to be whatever the name of his character was in Poison Ivy, that made-for-TV movie.
Poison Ivy?
Yes, not the Drew Barrymore theatrical movie, but there was I think it was a made-for-TV movie where he's a camp counselor.
Yeah, with Joe from Facts of Life.
Yes,
Whoa.
exactly.
That's an 80s film.
Yes. We had that on VHS, and I think I watched that a million times. I loved Alex P. Keaton.
You know Alex P. Keaton's girlfriend's name?
I believe her name is Lauren Miller.
It is. On Family Ties.
That is also the name of Seth Rogen's wife.
It is.
Although now she's Lauren Miller Rogen. But anyway.
I was way more excited about Alex P. Keaton's girlfriend.
With good cause. I definitely felt like this movie has a lot of really good stuff in it, and it is fun, and the special effects could have been awful, and they're not really. I just felt like there was stuff missing. Why don't they ever say what Boof's real name is? Why don't they ever say what happened to the mom? What is up with this kid, Lewis, who they seem to be setting up that he's going to be an important character, another good friend, unlike Styles, who's just kind of the opportunistic friend. And it's sort of there that Lewis is the guy who's telling him, hey, you're not doing the right thing, man. But it doesn't go anywhere. There's just a lot of stuff that they either forgot to shoot or they ran out of money or they shot it and left it on the cutting room floor. And I appreciate that this movie was a lean 88 minutes. It goes fast, but I kind of felt like it maybe went a little too fast in certain places.
Right, and missed things.
Maybe they could have cut out 5 minutes of that basketball game at the end. That 10-minute
and just said Lisa
game.
Mancusa.
Right, exactly. Or played less of the terrible lyrics of every song. I think that they had a good script at some point, and they just kind of ended up with I'm going to say 70 to 75% of that overall story. And the parts that are missing, I feel like are noticeable. And I think for that reason, I'm going to say it doesn't stand the test of time. I still like the movie. I'm still like really glad that we watched it because like it's been too long to have seen this movie. And, you know, Michael J. Fox, I'll always watch Michael J. Fox. I mean, he's just so sweet and charming. And it wasn't his good 1985 movie.
And it is kind of not fair to compare it to Back to the Future.
That is very, very true. It isn't fair, and I'm doing it anyway because it's like the exact same era. You know, like you can't compare Back to the Future with The Secret of My Success or something like that.
No,
but like
that's true.
this
You
is
can't?
no,
They're total 1986 is totally different than 85.
totally. They're just so close. You can't help it.
Secret of My Success came out in 1987, which I guess you're right is totally different. I mean, 85 was like early second Reagan administration, but Secret of My Success is the second half.
But he
of the
is
Reagan
an
years.
adult in that movie with a real job. He's not in high school.
That's the
true.
thing. That
He works in the mailroom.
I think he has an affair with his aunt at one point in that film.
It's his uncle's wife.
So his aunt.
Whatever.
I think there's a word for that.
Whatever.
I mean, if you're gonna get technical, split hairs. That's
It's not blood.
And by marriage, it's fine. But I'm really glad you came on the show, Lauren. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was so fun.
This was awesome. It was great having you here.
Thank you for having me.
You'll come back again sometime?
Yeah, Teen Wolf 2. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, please, no.
No Teen Wolf.
Something else. Think on it. Let us
Yes.
know.
Yes, I will.
So that's going to do it for us this week. Come back next week when we will discuss Silence of the Lambs with Courtney Noah. That's my wife. In the meantime, don't forget, subscribe wherever you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Stitcher, whatever it is, we're there.
Are we on Tidal?
I have no idea. Do they have podcasts on Tidal?
I don't know. Maybe we could be the official podcast of Tidal.
We should look into that.
Yeah, okay.
You be in charge of that.
I'm in charge of it. Oh, they said no.
Okay. You can find us at Test of Time Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Let us know what you think about Michael J. Fox and Teen Wolf and werewolves and people named Booth and all of these very important, controversial topics. And we'll see you next time, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.